I am Linda Deir, and this
And
gentleman.
I am Ray Holly, over here on keyboards.
Yeah, he relates to that because of his music background.
Back when I was a rock star,
Extensive music background.
Did you ever come see me when I was a rock star?
I didn't know you then, Ray.
Oh,
Look what I missed.
look what you missed.
Okay, you guys, we're going to be talking today about the guided journal writing system. That it consists of Guided, my flagship book, Guided, My Guided Journey, which is the companion journal to Guided, and My Journal Writing. Okay, it's these three books that consist of the journal writing system. And today we're going to be working with My Guided Journey. This is where you take the journey in part 2, chapter 1 through 18. And the topic for today is, you didn't come into this life to return home broken. Your spirit guides and I will help you heal the repressed trauma that has kept you frozen in time. Now, Ray is going to talk about the part that he researched today. He got on the internet and did a little research about this thing about that trauma, that first trauma, that early trauma that resulted in the life you find yourself in now, whether you realize there's traumas there controlling you and running your life or not. Okay, so Ray, you go ahead.
All right, tonight, with regard to repressed trauma, we're going to talk about...
Come over here, Ray. Come over here and sit, so they can see.
They can see
him in action.
They can see my arm.
No, keep coming back. They can see you when you come back. Okay. There he is, Mr. Mystery Man. Come,
there I am.
Come my way, Ray. Okay. There he goes, you
all
guys.
Right.
All right.
There we go.
Okay.
We're going to talk about all this repressed trauma. Where does it reside? Where does it all live? How did it get there? And how do you heal it?
Now you look at them.
How do you heal it? So we're going to kind of do a point-counterpoint thing.
Yeah, I'm going to let you go through it first.
I'll be the academia side.
Right, that's right.
I took a psychology class in college, so I feel quite comfortable doing this.
He feels pretty qualified. Look out, you guys. He did the research on this, and what Ray's going to do is he's going to go about it from a reasoning, logical, academia point of view, and I'm going to break it down from a place of knowing. That would be who you were when you first came here. That would be the person who, before the trauma hit, came into this life. Come over here with me,
okay.
Ray.
Let's check. That's good.
Came into this life and knew itself. It trusted itself. It was pre-trauma self. Okay, that's what I'm going to be talking about, and I'm going to take you back to that time and help you remember who that was, so that after Ray's reading this, he's going to be speaking to your left brain, to your logic. And after Ray's reading this, you might feel a little bit tired from hearing it, because it's the same thing you've heard over and over again, right? And the outcome of this approach, which is the common approach, is to take a pill or a prescription, or
yeah, there's a pill for that.
And that doesn't fix the trauma. That masks the trauma. What it does is it takes you down another notch. It dumbs you down another notch. And this is not about dumbing you down. This is about waking you up. It's about bringing you back, is what my approach is going to be. So Ray, go ahead and read your research.
Okay. All these traumatic memories hide in the brain, and what the trauma caused filters through everything you do in adulthood. It infiltrates your vision of yourself, how you perceive yourself, your emotions, your relationships, both your personal relationships and marriages, and your job relationships.
So even though you may not know the trauma's there, it affects everything.
Right. Relationships with money, your financial relationships, and also it has a huge impact on your decision making.
Right.
So the repressed traumas hidden by the brain to protect a person from recalling the emotional pain and damage that happened when it did.
Right. Read that again.
The repressed trauma is hidden by the brain to protect the person from recalling the emotional pain and damage that happened at that time.
Right. So as soon as you were traumatized, that part of you kicked in to protect you, okay? But now it's not protecting you. With that lingering trauma, that's the root of all these problems, that's not protecting you. It needs to be healed. Go ahead, Ray.
Okay, so what does this result in? The hidden trauma causes anxiety, depression, fear, shame, guilt, anger, insecurities of all kinds, anything you can think of. It can lead to, and here's a big word, dissociative disorders. That's detachment from reality. Traditional psychology and psychiatry methods say that in order to unearth these traumatic memories, you must return the brain to the same state of consciousness as when the memory was encoded with the trauma. And most of the time, this occurred when you were a young child.
Okay, so what I'm going to, give me one moment here. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my guided journey back out. I take you back to that early time, and in the video, in the book, as well as the associated video and MP3 that comes with this book, that's added support, added guidance to get you in the right mindset. So when you take the journey, you don't do it this way. You don't enter into it that way. You enter into it from a higher way of being, of the way that you were in those early years before the trauma hit you, okay? So it's the mindset that you enter into when you first start taking the journey that's critical to the journey, to have an outcome that will absolutely surprise you. It's none of this, okay? It's a whole different approach, but it is, when I hear what Ray's researched and read, it's amazing how this does take you back to your childhood, the early childhood, your first memories, to get in there and help you unearth that. And I just want to say this one thing, so while I'm on a roll. Wednesdays, being right here, every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific time on my Facebook page, I'm here to help you with any chapter that you feel you need help with. What Ray's reading, what we're covering today about trauma, is you're welcome to ask questions right now about a part of your life that's trauma, that you had trauma that you know about, but it's stubborn and you just can't seem to get over it. And I'm happy to answer some of those questions, happy to let your guides speak to you about a solution to those questions, because after all, your guides were there when it happened, you know? So go ahead, Ray.
Okay, you know how many people are always tired? They always
exhausted.
Say, I'm exhausted.
Right.
Okay. Many people who feel exhausted, most of the time, are like that because they spend so much energy suppressing these traumatic emotions and experiences.
Okay, let me give you an example around that. I'm going to use myself, guided. I remember many times with regard to relationships. Here's an interesting one. I got divorced from my first husband, and I don't know, it was a couple years later, I went out on a dreaded date. Now remember, when I got with my first husband, I never dated anyone before him, and I was never with anybody until after we got divorced and years later, right? So I was dreading the personal relationship arena. It was like my biggest fear, my biggest trauma. I went out with this guy, and I didn't know what to expect. I didn't even know how to go out on a date, what you do, what to expect or anything. And I wore all black. I just knew that I would sweat like this, you know, I'd sweat so much. I'd be so nervous, I wouldn't know what to do. And that turned out to be a good decision. We were at dinner, and I was literally drenched all the way down, including my pants. I sweat so hard. I was so traumatized. Okay, it was I don't know, a couple of weeks later, my guides came to me in a dream, and they told me that going out with somebody was not, you know, I wasn't ready to do it because my wings were still wet.
Wow.
My wings were still wet. These are your wings, right? And I was sweating, you know, profusely. And I was so nervous that I said, okay, I'm cutting out this dating thing because I don't even know how to behave on a date. I don't even know what to expect on a date. I didn't know what, you know, I didn't know what to think. I was unprepared. I was so traumatized by my family and everybody in my life as a kid. I just, and I was so traumatized by having relationships where you, maybe you know, you're intimate with somebody. I was so terrified that it took me another, it took me another 15 years to overcome that trauma. That's how strong it was. So I know about trauma. That would be one. Now I pushed that off and I said, oh, I won't be doing that for a while. But all it did is it delayed the healing. All right. But I did get back to the healing. And anyway, Ray, that's what trauma feels like.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
It really is. Okay. All right. So where were we? Okay. So people are exhausted from trying to suppress all these traumatic emotions. So I call them emotional stab wounds. They might have got stabbed once, maybe a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Okay. With the same type of emotion, and all these stab wounds get repeated as they're growing up until somewhere along the line they became conditioned to them. And
now that's scary.
Yeah. People would tell them things. I mean, you remember this from when you were a kid and you did something, you were crying. Parents would say, stop crying. It's okay. Get over it. Quit being a baby about that. Well, you were a baby, you know. You're supposed to be. Quit being a baby about that.
I know.
Well, so when you hear these kind of things, as a child, the emotion that's being experienced right at that time gets categorized internally and repressed as an emotion that person, that baby, is not allowed to experience anymore.
So that time capsule of emotion is lodged in there, and it stays safe. What keeps it safe in that time capsule is shame. That's what keeps it there. Because you're ashamed of yourself. Oh, I don't want anyone to know that happened to me. I don't want anyone to know that I did that. I don't want anyone to know. And you know what? What you did, whatever you said or whatever that was probably no big deal. Whoever dropped that one on you, that bomb on you, that trauma bomb, they're the ones that belongs to. That's not yours. That's not your garbage, okay? But you took it on like it was yours because you had nothing to compare it to. You were sphered right into your life in that moment. And that time capsule of shame has protected it ever since, okay? So what do we have over there, Ray?
Just more people joining. Hello, everybody.
You guys,
I was needed there for a moment.
Okay, great, Ray.
Okay, so getting back to these stab wounds
Come back over here.
Emotionally that you got as a baby.
It starts very young.
Very young.
Yeah.
I started off as a baby.
Well, come back here. Come on. Okay.
Am I in the queue?
You were a baby?
Yeah, I was at one time.
You were?
I know. Hard to believe. Got little shoes about that big. All these things that the baby endures growing up, that gets locked into their subconscious, into their brain, and they're told they can't experience that emotion again, and they push it down. So what happens when all these emotions come up? These emotions didn't stop coming up throughout their life,
right.
You know.
Well, what happens is you shut down. You're in a situation where that emotion comes up, and you either excuse yourself, remove yourself, you quit your job, you get out of that relationship. These are the decisions Ray was talking about earlier, that all the decisions you make based on that response, that reaction. Okay, when you're carrying trauma that you're protecting, because you're ashamed, okay? You're pushing it down. When you're doing that, then it pops out in the craziest ways. I mean, when I went out on that date, I had a feeling I'd be nervous, but man, I didn't expect that, you know? It was just way too much. So this trauma thing it never goes away. It can't be solved with drugs. It can't, and having psychological help, you know, it helps to a point, but until you do your own inner work, that's where this comes back up. You do your own inner work and you unearth that and you write it in here. And when you write it in here, you take it out of here where it controls you, where it runs your life, where the shame continues to just take your life over, okay? And you never get around to living the life you intended. You're too busy protecting yourself from all these possibilities based on that trauma.
You know, you're always getting triggers, no matter how long this trauma, these emotions have been buried,
right,
hidden away.
And what you'll feel, I'll tell you, when I went out on that date and I felt that, I felt the hugest amount of shame. I felt like the most, what's the best way to describe this? I felt like the most unprepared person. Here I was a stellar businesswoman. I was so talented at architecture and home building, and I loved it. I was really good at it, all right? But when it came to something as simple as the interpersonal relationship, I had absolutely no way to know how to handle it. I was so embarrassed that I was so deficient at 30 years old. I was deficient at 30 years old to have a relationship, to go out on a date.
Do you think that went all the way back to when you were a child?
Definitely.
What were some examples?
Lack of trusting people. I didn't trust what their intentions were. My mother always had the next thing lined up to take me down. She always had a strategy, a new plan of attack to get me. She was constantly thinking up something next to take me down. Okay, emotionally, physically, psychologically, spiritually, she was constantly doing it. She told me when I was real young, she goes, "I'm going to break your spirit, and there's nothing you're going to be able to do about it." And you know what I did? I went, whoa, I am bracing myself. I am so ready for this woman. I am not going to let her have me like that. She will have to kill me first. You know, I will not let her do it. And so I went through a whole childhood like this, like holding on and holding my breath just to get through it, you know, and get through it. So by the time I came out of that childhood, the most important thing I learned was not to trust anyone.
Why do you think you were like that? Okay, so you knew not to trust your mother. You couldn't trust her. There was something wrong with her. But
I couldn't trust any of the family.
But long before that, when you were 20 months old, what did you learn at 20 months old when the guys first appeared to you that allowed you to be like that?
Okay, I'm not sure I'm going to pull the answer you're looking for. I don't know what you're looking for, but I'll just describe it real quickly. At 20 months old, my mother beat me so badly, she almost killed me. I asked for help, someone to help me, and they showed up all around me. And when they did, they did, you've heard of a mind wipe, where people wipe their memory or amnesia. These guides wiped my amnesia. Okay, so they let me see where I came from, remembered who I was, who they were. I remembered there were so many things that happened in that moment. And I do mean moment, it happened so fast. The takeaway that day was that this life is not all there is. So is that what you're looking for?
Good answer.
Okay, why were you looking for that?
Because you have to have a reason. One day you just don't decide. Your mother says, "I'm going to destroy you. I'm going to beat the spirit out of you." And if you had always been the same person that you were up to that time, if the guys had not stepped in at 20 months old and given you a different perspective on your life, then you would have said, "Oh God, he's going to destroy me."
It probably would have destroyed me. I think it probably would have, because my mom never stopped. She never, ever, ever, ever stopped. And you know what? She was traumatized. There's a reason people act like this stuff out. and they were traumatized, and they never got the help that they needed. All right. So in those days, my mom was born in 1931. In those days, what they did is they suffered with the trauma, and they became a problem for everyone in their path. Nowadays, what they do is they give you drugs. I mean, they give kids drugs starting at what age in school? At the beginning.
At the beginning.
To chill them out, so that they won't be a problem. And the poor teacher that has 40 students in a class, really, I mean, that's where it comes from. There's not enough time for these kids, not enough room for these kids, not enough resources for these
kids.
If
we give them all enough drugs, we can put 10 more in the class. That's the way they think.
This is the problem. So to settle for the lower standards, it's not about doing that, you guys. It's about raising the bar and raising your standards and fleshing out the trauma so it quits following you around from lifetime, literally from lifetime to lifetime, okay? Yeah.
So a person who, not you, but a person who was abused as a child or got beat up by the kids in the neighborhood, let's say that, got beat up by the kids in the neighborhood, they'd wait till you were far away from home or down at the park. Or
vulnerable.
Vulnerable, you were vulnerable, and they beat the snot out of you, and you'd run home crying. Later on in life, since you've repressed that traumatic experience, later on in life, you could be walking through a park, or you could, hear the train that ran next to the park when they used to beat you up, and it triggers all those feelings again.
This is true. And another thing it does, unfortunately, is now you become an energy beacon to draw it to you.
Right.
Okay. It's not meant to hurt you. It's the universe's way of getting you to heal the bloody thing. Heal it. Deal with it. Write it down. Look at it out here. Get it out of here and look at it out here and begin to have an advantage over it, control over it, a way to heal the thing. But you can't do it, you guys, unless you write it down. I'm here every Wednesday to help you work through it, okay? You don't have to carry this around anymore. It's not yours.
Okay, we've got a couple of observations.
Great. So glad to have you all with us.
Julia Wild says, "Hi, Linda. You said we could ask questions, so here it goes. Could you please talk some more about mindset, how mindset affects revisiting past traumas?"
Okay, I love your
and
question.
give some examples. She said that she had a 15-year trauma. That 15-year trauma you mentioned, how did you heal that? How did you eventually go out on a date with me?
Now that's scary.
That was trauma, wasn't it?
That was very traumatic.
Yeah.
No, I'm joking with you guys. Okay, that's a very good question. I love your question.
I'm glad you healed that one before we met.
I never would have attracted you if I was still packing that trauma around, Ray. That's my whole point. Okay, you really don't bring in the right things in your life, the things that you really desire, when your trauma is undermining it. Okay, so read me the beginning of that again.
Okay, talk some more about
how I released.
Could you please talk some more about how the mindset affects
right, the mind. That's what I need. That's all I need.
Trauma.
That's all I need. The mindset. Okay, this is why my guided journey. Ray and I spent 18 weeks every week on Facebook doing a video. That's now part of a blog that I have. That's when you go to lindadeir.com and you click on blog at the top in the nav, you go to the blog page, you're going to see on the right where the categories are, you're going to see number 1, My Guided Journey. And in there you're going to see 18 videos, well actually 19, I have an introduction video in there, but a video for every chapter of part 2 of My Guided Journey. And what it does, in fact, in My Guided Journey, you get in the right mindset right there. But the video really helps because I'm right there, Ray and I are right there, and he's interviewing me, and I'm right there talking to you, And the mindset is, for example, I'll just use one example. What got me over that trauma with dating, with interpersonal relationships, was I've always journaled, for starters. I've always journaled, and so I could see what is going on. I could see it. I may not see it the minute I write it down, but I look at it and review it in a week from now, 2 weeks, a month. I open it back up. It's out of here. It's on the pages. And I go, okay, I'm not going to let that happen again. I see my pattern, because you have a pattern when you have a trauma that you haven't solved and you keep carrying it with you. What I did in addition to that is you're going to see it when you watch these videos. I described it, what happened to me, what the trauma was, like it happened to someone else. I did it by not taking it personally when I reviewed it, when I wrote it down. I didn't write it down the same way I experienced it from an emotional point of view at the time that it happened. You will not see it if you do that. It won't work. You've got to look at it like it happened to someone else and then write that down.
It kind of puts it out there.
It tells the truth. Your emotion will not tell you the truth. It will tell you a translation of what you think happened, which is what turned it into trauma. Okay? That's what turned it into trauma. Just like it wasn't yours. Okay? It didn't belong to you. Like somebody dumped their garbage on your doorstep. It doesn't belong to you. So how could you ever take that here, take it personal? How could you do that? You look at it on the doorstep and go, well, that's not my stuff. So what is that stuff that stopped me out long ago and has controlled my life ever since? Write it down. Get it out of here, because the way it's sitting in here is the old emotion. It's not the feeling, it's the emotion. When you turned it into an emotion, it became a trauma. It's a feeling, the child, the baby comes in knowing itself. It feels everything, because that's what knowing is. You don't know why you know it, you just feel it. It's feeling. You can trust your feelings. Your emotions, that's a different story. Okay, so that's how I did it. What else does she have there, Ray?
Well, that's it. Hannah has a question. Why does it always seem that it's family members that treat us so badly, physically, mentally? She says her dad was a bully.
Yeah. Is that the end of that one?
Yeah.
Her name?
Hannah.
Hannah. Okay, Hannah. The families really do take liberty, don't they? You do pick your family, and they pick you, and you have this collaboration before you came into this world to challenge each other, to work out the deficiencies that each and every one of you came in with. So your father was a bully. You guys all decided, imagine, you decided this before you came into this life, and he was going to play the bully. It's like a movie. You guys were the best directors of this movie that you created. But it was designed to get you through some stuff, not get you blocked up and not break you, okay? But so many times, because we misinterpret what this all is, again, those videos and My Guided Journey will get you in the right mindset so you stop doing that. You've got to stop doing that to uncover what has happened, the damage that's happened, so you can flush it out, and it will no longer control you. And once you get used to this, once you see the reward, once you see by taking the action what this results in, you will no longer take things personally. You will learn to sit back, put it out there, just like I said before, don't take it personally, like it's happening to someone else, because it's not your stuff. As soon as you realize this stuff that's being dumped on you is not yours, this is your test. But you will not see it until you write it down. The reason I say that, it's in here, you talk about it or you feel it, it's out of context, it's, oh yeah, I remember that, and oh no, I forgot that, and oh, what about that? It's all over the place. It's like scribble scrabble, okay? It's like a puzzle with a whole bunch of the pieces missing. Until you write it down, does the puzzle come together and all the pieces show up. And the only reason you're able to do it and flesh it out and face that darn thing is because when you write it down, you're not coming from the same place it got lodged.
Yeah, you're looking at it out there.
Right. It doesn't control you. The fact that you got this and you started taking that step out of it and started doing your inner work, and this is your dump site. You dump it in here, all right? And once you have it on paper, and I will tell you this, you will slip back. Once you write it down, you've done your journey, you've taken the 18 chapters and you've taken your journey, you're going to slip back once in a while, but you know what you're going to have? You are going to have evidence. Here it is. Ooh, this is what I wrote down. I got it. I see it on the page. It doesn't have me anymore. I see what I wrote. I see where and when it happened. I see how it made me feel. What I realized and what I intended or did do. It's the action that makes all the difference. Okay.
It sounds so simple. I mean, I don't know if we could tell people enough times. Writing it down starts the whole healing process.
Absolutely.
If you don't write it down, you'll never feel it, which is the second step.
And if you don't feel it,
you won't heal it.
Yeah, you can't. But you know what the beauty of this is? Feel it once. Okay, I went through all this crap too. And I wrote here's how I know about it. I want you guys to know that I could have never, ever, ever written this for you if I hadn't written this one first.
I wrote that for you.
I wrote this book, and I was guided to write this book for over 20 years, and I finally sat down one day and wrote it. I wrote this book, and I had no idea, by the way, when it got published, that so many people were connected to this book. They read this book, and I mean, I could tell you stories that are just still blow me away about the readers of the thousands and thousands of people around the world that connected with this, okay? And had I from writing Guided and reliving it all over again, oh my God, I had no idea I would, in my lifetime, ever have to go back to my past, to my childhood, to that traumatic childhood, and to my life, and have to write about the whole thing. It was traumatic. It was healing beyond words. And I'm the people, the fan base from Guided, they healed me as much as the book did in writing it. Because when I got the feedback from all of them, Guided has over 1,000 reviews between Audible and Amazon.
Around the world.
And around the world in other countries. It's unbelievable. And these reviews aren't just like, oh, I couldn't put it down. These reviews are like this. They're like shocking, okay? And when you read the reviews for Guided, oh my God, what you need is you need to get Guided, you need to get the journal. And I would say in that sequence too, because if you haven't gotten Guided, you won't know how I did it. You guys ask me how I did it. This is how I did it right here in Guided. It's my award-winning, best-selling book on Amazon.
Okay.
What else do we have?
Well, I'd like to say something to Hannah. I had the opposite experience that you did, and Hannah's dad was a bully.
Yeah.
Your mom was a bully.
Oh,
and
yeah.
You're one of your siblings, and and bullies. You were surrounded by bullies in school. You didn't have any friends, did you? In school.
I elected to have no friends.
Good.
Because they weren't worthy of my friendship. And you guys, I want you to understand, I had the best friends that anyone could possibly have. Nobody understood who these guys were. I had them with me all the time. I was always connected. So when I saw the kind of friendship that was offered me from kids in school, and how they stabbed each other in the back, and how they tell your secrets out to everybody once they decided they didn't like you anymore or didn't fit into their group, or I saw all that stuff, I said, man, I've got the only friends I need. Thank you very much.
So my experience growing up was different. I wasn't bullied by my dad or my mother. I wasn't abused.
Right.
But I found that bosses, once I got out in the workforce, bosses are much more vicious than your family. Because, I don't know why, well, probably because they're not connected to you by
Yeah,
blood.
well, there's the lack of connection.
Right, lack of connection. They're disconnected.
They're disconnected.
I think they were a lot more abusive to me than my family ever was. Well, my extended family got more abusive to me later on.
See how they were less connected to you and more abusive.
Right.
So it's almost like an entitlement, like you don't matter, And so in the family, they feel like maybe even if they don't like you, well, you're part of the family, got to put up with you, right? But
once you move away, and you're not around
everything
for family
changes.
reunions anymore.
Right.
They can talk all about you,
and they do.
I know.
The only reason they do that is because you have a life and they don't. You got on with your life, and you're living your life. Hopefully, you're living your life from here. You're living your life, the one that you have a passion about, not the one you were told to do, not the one you had to go to school and you had to just do this, and not any of the chastising type of things, but from your authentic self, okay? From this person, this new person that came into this life, that they knew when they got here they could do anything, they could have it all. Okay, that's the one I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's a good thing, especially getting away from, like, when you get in school, the teachers inflict a lot of these emotional stab wounds. That you say something, you give a wrong answer in school. The problem's wrong, you gave the wrong answer.
And they get short with you.
Well, they say something like, well, that was a stupid answer, or that was a dumb,
or the kids say it.
That was a dumb way to answer that question. So all of a sudden, at that point right there, the wound went in, and you are now a dumb person. That's an emotion. You cannot feel. You can't allow yourself to feel stupid or dumb anymore.
Okay, I like this because
the rest of your life.
Perfect. And when you run into one of these things, like Ray just described, perfect. You write it in here, but you don't write it in there the way he described it, where he's still the victim.
Right.
Where he's from emotion. You write it in here like this, like it happened to someone else, like you were observing it.
Right.
Because that person's not taking it personally, and they're seeing it for what it is. And then you can see why you reacted the way you did. What is it? And I'll tell you what will happen. You'll see what it is. You'll see why you reacted the way you did. And it's like you're going to have to go back a step to see where that started. How come you assumed that emotion? How come you assumed to become a victim just like that? Where did that come from? It didn't come from that moment. It came from the moment before that and the one before that. It happened in the family. It happened from a friend. It happens from somewhere else where you wound up at that point in first grade and you already had all this baggage, you guys. All these time capsules, injected into you that you long ago pushed down because you were protecting it because of the shame. You see, you've got to get back to the very start. But if you start like what Ray talked about, I remembered when I acted that way, but why did I really act that way? That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make any sense. Where did that reaction come from? That's when you keep going back. That's how this works. And in this, I tell people, don't start with chapter 1. Chapter 1 is the high dive, okay? Fear. Okay, many times you will not see that fear until you do something like what Ray talked about. You're in first grade, third grade. Something happens like that brings it to the surface, and there it is. And you go, well, I know it didn't happen right now. By then, you're in chapter 4 or 5 or 6. No, you got to go back to chapter 1 or 2 or 3. You got to go back and find out where that emotion started. So it's like you trail it, bang, it happened there, but nothing happened to support your reaction to that happening at that time. It happened before it.
come to think about it, I had a lot of these, what they were talking about at the beginning, these dissociative, um, removing yourself from reality type situations, dissociative behaviors.
Yeah.
Daydreaming in school. I was always daydreaming in school, taking myself out of the situation.
Right, right.
Because it was painful.
I know. I I did the same thing.
Yeah.
And then when something would happen in the class, every once in a while that was interesting, I'd miss it because I was doing exactly what you were doing.
Yeah.
I was spacing out. I couldn't hold my attention. It was too arduous. It was too
It was boring.
It was tragic.
Trying to get you to remember things so you could repeat them back. I mean, I can hear the nuns saying many times, Mr. Holly, is there something more exciting outside that window than here in the classroom? And I go, yeah, as a matter of fact, sister, there is.
You know, you look back at it, but you have to trace the thing, you know? So, do they have any other questions here?
No, yeah, Julia, we'll have to answer that, your other soul retrieval question some other time. It's a little off topic, but yes, your second question is, will there be a replay for this tonight?
Yes, there will be. Yeah, you can watch it from the beginning. And you guys, I'm going to be here every Wednesday. If you don't have this, get this, and then get this, My Guided Journey. And I'm here to help you guys retrace your steps and flush this stuff out. I'm really, really good at this. Okay?
And you do it because you love to do it.
Well, I did it for myself.
Yeah.
I've lived it.
Going back to that point, what's that saying you say all the time? It's so easy what?
I say that it's so easy a baby could do it. It's so easy a baby did do it. It's already inside of you.
Yeah, you really don't have to remember anything.
No, you don't.
You just have to go back to the time when you came in here as a new person, a baby.
Yeah.
And how you felt and how you reacted. I mean, your whole life was you were your feelings. A baby feels like they are their feelings, and everything they do is based out of curiosity.
You came in really vulnerable, okay? And if you came into a family like mine, whoa! I mean, that was a showstopper. My family, and it just so happened that when I was at the most dismal part of my early life, 20 months old, when my mom almost killed me, and I asked for help, and they showed up all around me. I know how this works, you guys. And that was in that moment what happened, in that whole realization, in that whole experience I had with those guides and have had ever since. It changed everything. I saw this world for what it was. I saw it. I had a dream for 35 years, from the beginning of my life until I was 35 years old, that it's called The Merry-Go-Round. It's chapter 1 of Guided, that talks about how I knew this stuff when I first came here, how I was supposed to know this stuff, and what my job was going to be because of what they showed me. So I know how this works. I know how you guys got shortchanged early in your life and waylaid, okay, literally. And you took this stuff on, and before you knew it, it was one shock after another, and all you knew is, oh, what do I do now? Oh, I don't want to make anyone mad. I want everyone to like each other. It was just one panic after another, with a poor decision to back it up, that you've been making ever since. Yeah. If you wonder where your life is going, if you wonder why, your life isn't working out the way you want it to, the way you feel it should be working out, what you feel is telling you the truth.
Yeah. And, all those things you mentioned are all based in what happens in the first chapter of this book, fear.
It does.
Everything that stops you out in your adult life, whether it's relationship-oriented, money-oriented.
Yeah. Here's the whole point. Anything that's negative is fear-based.
Right.
Everything that's positive is based in love. It's that simple. So if you feel a fear around it or you feel shame around it, it's all fear stuff, all right? So for chapter 1, here's what Ray's talking about, chapter 1 of my guided journey. The old forget how to keep the secrets. The middle age protect the secrets. The young feel the shame of the secrets. Hint, this pressure triggered your first fear. It resides in the secrets and the shame. As soon as you got hit with whatever the trauma was, you protected it with the shame and you kept it a secret. It's what the whole family did. So that seemed to make sense, but it doesn't make sense. All it does is keeps the secret, you know? It doesn't heal the trauma. So Ray's talking to one of you guys on Facebook. And you guys, I also do counseling. I do coaching on this in private sessions. Did you put that up, Ray?
I did.
Okay, it's posted in the description part of this event. And I do it privately. And it's just like this, where I have an intimate conversation with you and your guides about. And let's do a little of this, Ray. Let's let the guides interject about what we all talked about tonight so far, just so you can see how this works when you speak to your guides in a conversation, okay? I mean, I've always spoken to my guides and had access to my guides and I've always been connected to them. But in 1989, they came to me, 88, they came to me and asked me to create this so they would have a higher way of communicating with you and a way for you guys to sharpen your intuition, to bring it back, all right? So we're just going to let the guides talk about, like a conversation, about their input about what we all talked about tonight. And here they go.
Anyone who tells someone to quit being a baby about something doesn't understand babies. Babies come in pure and powerful. They come in with a knowing rather than a sense of reason. They don't have to question if what someone says isn't the truth, because they come from truth and love. By the time they get to school, their minds have been bombarded by so much false thinking that the things they were forced to learn became their belief systems. They made decisions from the rest of their life. The older they got, the further they got away from the connection they came in with, the connection to us. It's about when this baby turns 40 or 50 years old that the connection starts to return, like small memories that flash in and out. This is when you start to feel the urge, the pit in your stomach, or what we call the hole in your soul. This is when you question most about, why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? And worrying about, do I have enough time to get it done?
This is the kind of counseling, and I do mean counseling, psychological counseling, spiritual counseling, you get from your guides. We never know what they're going to say. We never know what they're going to say to us when we sit down and consult with them. And we do it all the time. We do it for business. We do it for, just for anything that we need answers to. I call it the best personal development tool there is, to get to know who this is, who you are, okay? And start from there. Because they know you. They planned this with you, okay? And they want to see that you actually live the life you intended. After all, that's why you did this. That's why you came here. So, Ray, do we have any other?
We're all set.
All right. So what we're going to do, you guys, we want you to come back. We don't know what we're going to be talking about next Wednesday, but we will announce it on Tuesday. If you get Linda's, go to my website, lindadeir.com, right here. And at the very top of the page, you're going to see, what are Linda's weekly guided insights? All right. You want to click that button that's going to make you so curious, and click on that and sign up for the insights.
What are they?
They are free.
Yep.
And they are we channel this information from the guides every week about you navigating the uncertain world that you're now living in. And they help you align with what that is, so you can calibrate yourself for this massive, changing,
disconnected world.
Well, it's an amazing world if we're connected.
Right.
See, the whole point to this, get this first, get this next, my guided journey. And the whole point to this is to get you guys connected again, where you're not missing it, okay? Where you're connected. And you're back in one piece again. You're not just in this world, but you brought yourself back, your guidance back, the connection back. Now you're powerful. Now nobody could ever shock you again, throw you off your game again, make you doubt yourself again. It's impossible, okay? But get this first, and then get this. And by the way, Guided is published in paperback, Kindle, and audiobook. And I read the book myself. Now that was a grueling experience. Not only did I write the book, but then I had to read the book, and it's so much more powerful than when the author reads their book. But boy, did that take its toll on me.
There was times you had to quit for almost 2 weeks before you couldn't go on.
I mean, you talk about working through this. Talk about being qualified to help you. I got this thing, you guys. So start there. That's what I would recommend. Although on Tuesday, come, and if you get Linda's Weekly Guided Insight, you'll see what we're talking about each week. You can come in, ask questions. Your guides will speak to you about it, help you with it. In fact, this coming Tuesday is going to be, what's it say up there, Ray?
You become conscious as you unlearn all the wrong things.
One little piece at a time. It's like it's dropping off of you. It's flicking away. It's flicking away. It can't control you anymore. But what's going to surprise you is you're really going to like the person that you are. The person you kind of felt that could have been you. The person that you've been hiding, because this world just didn't seem to be a safe place for that to come out. And it's more than safe to come out. I'm going to show you how to do that.
Especially in the two groups, Tuesdays and Wednesday nights. And
yeah.
They're like-minded people. It's not something where, there's no There's no secrets. There's no gurus to chase.
There's not.
no. You don't
No.
have to go to Costa Rica for a week to a seminar or a retreat. Or
But we do have some exciting
we
things
do have
coming
some
up.
exciting
We
things.
can't tell
going
you about it right now, but we're working on it. And as soon as we can tell you, we're going to tell you about it. But it's going to be very cool. It's the first time we're offering something. So and it's really, really well thought out. So sign up for Linda's Weekly Guided Insights. Come on Tuesdays, and then come here on Wednesdays, and we're going to work on this. We're going to help you with this. Okay? You're in good hands with us.
You are in great hands.
And we have a fan base that, they're the best. They're the strongest. There's nothing like it. So we've got a support team
That's our family.
that is our family. That totally is.
Okay, everybody.
We will be back next week right here on Facebook Live Wednesday. What day is that, Ray? Today is what, and what's next Wednesday?
Today is the...
I know. Just look at the calendar.
Well,
It's right there, June.
June the 5th. Next week is the 12th.
Okay, next week, June 12th, Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific time, right here on Facebook Live. We're going to be working with the journal, so feel free to bring your questions. Get guided, and if you have questions about any one of these books, we're talking about guided, My Guided Journey. That's your journey. That's how you take your journey. This is how I took mine. And then My Journal Writing. This is where you keep your journey going. Okay, you keep conscious of what's going on, so you don't miss it. You don't miss the guidance. You don't get a dream that you don't understand, because getting a dream that you don't understand is like getting a letter you never open. That's important for you to know what that means. Okay, and that's where the guides come back in. They were there when that dream happened. In fact, they instigated it.
They brought it to you.
Yeah, it's fascinating, you guys. We love all of you joining us.
We do.
Tell your friends.
Tell your friends, and don't forget to write everything down.
Yeah, write it all down.
We'll see you soon.
Good night.